Today we have Greg Buchanan, the host of the CPCA Radio Network, as well as the CPCA Vice President, and he is here today to talk to us about the upcoming Onion Lake show that will be taking place this weekend, as well as some further shows coming up for the CPCA. And so thank you so much for being with us today, Greg.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Thomas.
So, Greg, let's talk about Onion Lake. It's a little bit different from the previous show in Wainwright and previous shows before this show that is coming up due to the fact that it has 4 barrels. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that and the fact that it's a 5-day show and how that differs from more typical races?
You mentioned you come off the Wainwright Stampede, or is a 3-day show, Friday to Sunday, and you're racing for the aggregate and just 3 wagons on the track at that time. So now we go to Onion Lake, and it gets these drivers ready for bigger shows. It gets these drivers ready for the North American Chuck Wagon Championship, and for others, the Calgary Stampede. It's a bigger track, more room on the track, and on top of that, you have not just one driver, but you have one driver up against 3 other wagons. So there's challenges there, and the more than anything, there's challenges to. You look at 5 days here and then 9 days of the North American Championship, as well as 10 days of the Calgary Stampede. There's a lot of racing going in a short amount of time. And I think if you listen to the CPCA Radio Network, you're going to hear the term barn management a lot. And if, Thomas, if you're a baseball guy, you probably are. And if you're a manager of the Blue Jays and you have a series against the Yankees, a series against the Red Sox, you're managing your bullpen, you're managing your starting rotation. No different than chuck wagon drivers. They're managing their lefties and the righties, but it's the wheel team and the leaders. So you're mapping that out over the next number of weeks, who's going to race on a given night. So no different than baseball with baseball players and pitchers. You have that chuck wagon racing with the horses they have hooked on a wagon.
That management, does that lead to any of the CPCA drivers, maybe, again, with that management, trying to incentivize certain races like the championship and the Calgary Stampede over this Onion Lake show? Will we maybe see a bit of a weaker showing from some drivers who are trying to be stronger in those later shows?
Yeah, a little bit of that. I think there's something to be said that they got to make sure that their top horse, their number one outfit, is ready for those bigger shows. But at the same time, there's a lot of money on the line at Onion Lake, and the money means a lot in chuck wagon racing. So who's kidding who? But more than anything, for the first couple of nights, if things aren't going well for a driver, they'll know, okay, I'm not going to be in contention for the championship dash on Sunday. Maybe I'm going to rest a few of my big boys and get them ready for the NACC, get them ready for the Calgary Stampede. But that said, it's such a competitive field right now in the CPCA. You had Preston Faithful win the Wainwright Stampede. You had Danny Ringett win the Dash for cash. And then you have the usual suspects like Logan Gorse, the reigning Canadian champion, the reigning Calgary Stampede champion, top of the point standings. You have a Todd Baptiste, a former Canadian champion. So you have a very competitive field, and now you sprinkle in the likes of Danny Ringett, you sprinkle in a former Calgary Stampede champion, Luc Tournier, and then all of a sudden that competitive field from 1 to 7 is now from 1 to 12. And it's anybody's night of winning day money on any night, and you'll see that likely tonight in Onion Lake.
Tonight, Onion Lake gets underway. Kind of who are you expecting? Is there some drivers who have better shots in Onion Lake? Does that home field advantage affect some drivers in the CPCA in comparison to more typical sports like baseball, as we mentioned previously?
Yeah, I think if you're more comfortable with the track, there's some drivers that feel comfortable, not just the track, but the barning area too. So, and it's not the drivers, it's more the horses feel comfortable with the track. I think you have a hometown guy like Kobe Stanley, who is only in his second year in the CPCA, and he's serving notice that he's going to be a contender, not just this season, but for years to come. So Kobe Stanley calls Onion Lake home. He'll be part of some of the pony chuck wagons as well as the rubber tire races. So he's going to be on the track well before the CPCA is with their wagons. So he's a guy that look out for him. He could have a pretty good run. Preston Faithful will look to add to what he did in Wainwright this week in Onion Lake. And Jamie Labicane is a driver that last year came into Onion Lake, struggled in Onion Lake, and then by the end of that show had things kind of put together what his 2 outfits were going to be. And what he did a week later was win the aggregate title at the North American Chuck Wagon Championship in 2021. So Jamie Labicane is one that you always have to look out for. But when you have a guy that's the reigning Calgary Stampede champion, Logan Gorse, at the top of the pack right now, he's the one everybody's trying to beat.
Thank you so much for all the information, Greg, and we look forward to a very exciting few weeks of chuck wagon racing.
Thanks, Thomas.